911, Shaker Police, your emergency.
Yes, my husband just beat me and threw me out the car. He has my 2 daughters in the car.
Where you at?
Van Aiken Boulevard.
Yeah.
And like Avalon. He just threw me out the car. Orange Saturn View 2008. I'm afraid he's going to hurt my daughters.
Is he with you now, or did he drive off?
He drove off.
Which way on Van Aiken?
He went going down towards the police station. Please find my kids.
Are you injured?
Yes.
The voice that you're currently listening to belongs to 41-year-old Aisha Frazier. Aisha was in the passenger seat, driving home from a funeral with her family, her husband driving the car, and their 2 daughters, ages 4 and 6, in the back of the car. Aisha and her husband had been separated since March of the previous year, but emotions were still high-strung. They began discussing their relationship, which escalated into an aggressive argument. As the argument became even more heated, her husband resorted to violence. According to a police report of the incident, he began hitting her over and over about 20 times. He then slammed her head against the dashboard, window, and armrest, all while still operating the vehicle. She tried to jump out of the car, but he prevented her escape by grabbing her hair. After beating her, biting her, and threatening her even more, Aisha was eventually able to escape the vehicle at a red light. Although Aisha was injured and exhausted, her mother instincts started to kick in. Aisha didn't flee the area after escaping the vehicle. Her husband simply parked the car and advanced on Aisha again. The beating continued with Aisha defenseless on the ground, while her 2 children witnessed the entire event. He then got back in the car and drove off, with the 2 children still in the vehicle. Soon after, people driving by Aisha recognized that she needed help and then picked her up.
They're taking me to South Point now.
Who's taking you to South Point?
Some nice people in the car stopped. I jumped in.
Okay,
Yeah.
Can you tell the driver just to stop where you're at, and we're going to have the squad meet you.
They're here. Did you find the Saturn View? Did you find my kids?
Later that day, Aisha's husband contacted her sister. He suggested that she come pick up the kids before he did anything to himself. However, before this threat could be carried out or taken any further, Aisha's husband was arrested by the police.
Where's the weapons in the house?
There's weapons. I have a safe that I opened up so you can get to it.
I copy, thanks.
There's guns in
We have him
closet.
with us. He's in custody, no injuries
And
that we can see.
there's a gun on my bed too. But there's several. How's my wife?
What do you mean, how's your wife? Where was your wife be?
She was on. She jumped out the car. She's okay. She's okay. All right.
Okay. I knew nothing of that.
See if they've had any
Just come on over here.
2 hours.
You know what?
Take a seat.
We'll put him in this is Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to put him in my car. That way,
Okay,
if you guys got to break off,
17.
you'll be okay. Have a seat, please.
714, believe advised. The house is clear. What we did.
Turn around and sit down. Okay. And now slide back. I don't know who in the world ordered these police cars, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't a police officer.
The man being arrested, who we have previously been referring to as Aisha's husband, is actually a 47-year-old man by the name Lance Mason. From 2002 to 2006, Lance was a member of the Ohio House of Representatives, serving as an assistant minority whip during his final year. From 2007 to 2008, he represented the 25th District as a member of the Ohio Senate. In August 2008, it was announced that Lance Mason was appointed to serve as a judge in the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas. The assault that Lance carried out on Aisha caused several injuries to her face, head, and neck, and an orbital blowout fracture under her left eye. This resulted in Aisha requiring facial reconstructive surgery. 2 days after the assault took place, Aisha officially filed for divorce. This divorce would later be finalized in November of 2015. During Lance's arrest, officers also performed a search on his house. They seized a copious amount of ammunition and weapons, including shotguns, semi-automatic rifles, handguns, smoke grenades, a bulletproof vest, and a sword. Lance Mason was then charged with attempted felonious assault, kidnapping, and domestic violence. He pled guilty to these charges on August 13, 2014, and agreed to serve some time in prison. On September 3rd, the Ohio Supreme Court suspended Lance from practicing law for being a convicted felon. He followed up by submitting his resignation as a judge on September 15th. The next day, on September 16th, 2015, Lance Mason was sentenced to 2 years in prison.
I'm here to be punished today for what I did to my wife and my children. I have no excuses. I beat my wife in front of my kids and put them in harm. And I am solely responsible. And nothing justifies the harm I've done to my wife and my family. I mean, I'm heartbroken and devastated for the pain I caused my wife and the girls, but it doesn't compare to the pain and devastation that I've done to them. And I can't undo that harm or undo what my girls witnessed. And it tears me apart. But all of my life I fought against this type of brutality that I did to Aisha. And I didn't realize that I was this broken. I mean, I had no idea. I blame my wife, but I was broken. I failed the public. I failed my wife and my family. I failed my girls, who I've tried to be a good example to and to protect every way I could. I'm probably overprotective. And because of my action, I realized that I've left my wife to raise our daughters alone, to provide for them alone, and it's against everything I've learned and everything I know, and I sincerely regret it. My prayer is that in the future I live a life that will make it possible for Aisha, Audrey, Ava, and all that I've hurt to forgive me. And I'm ready to be punished.
In reference to the charge of attempted felonious assault, the court is going to impose a prison sentence of 24 months.
While Lance was in prison, Aisha filed a civil suit against him, seeking financial compensation for the damages caused by the attack.
Well, Mason's wife filed this civil complaint seeking monetary damages, citing pain and suffering she endured as a result of that alleged attack. All of this stems from the alleged assault inside the couple's car on Van Aken Boulevard. Now, Mason's wife is seeking $40,000 in damages for serious physical injuries to her face, neck, including a fractured bone.
She won the lawsuit and was promised $150,000. Lance later petitioned for early release. Included in that petition was a letter to Aisha.
And all indications were at the first domestic violence that it was a one-time thing.
Mason's wife, a school teacher, did not oppose the release.
She was having extreme financial difficulties, such as they were losing their house, the house flooded, there was rats in the basement.
Then there were the letters which read like a confession from Mason himself, who said to his daughters at the time, quote, "I failed you, your mom and her parents," and to his wife, "I failed as a husband, a father, and a man."
The letter was an apology, asking for forgiveness and expressing his deep regret for what had happened. Part of the letter reads, "My responsibility was to love and protect you. Instead of loving, protecting, and providing for you and our daughters, I have provided a terrible example and exposed you to rage and violence." 2 months later, Lance was granted an early release from prison, serving only 9 months of his prison sentence. Life went on for both Aisha and Lance. Lance battled to continue his career. And in a controversial decision, Cleveland Mayor Frank Jackson hired Lance as an official with the title Minority Business Development Administrator. Lance's friends and colleagues, including several well-known judges and attorneys, wrote more than 30 letters of support on behalf of Lance Mason between 2014 and 2017. Lance nearly lost his ability to practice law multiple times throughout these years. Unfortunately for him, the battle was lost. And in December of 2017, the Ohio State Bar Association suspended his law license indefinitely. Aisha continued her long career as an elementary school teacher at the Shaker Heights Elementary School. She put her daughters through counseling using the money from the lawsuit. She also met a man named Ronald Williams. Ronald and Aisha started dating in 2016 after meeting in college. When things became more serious, Ronald moved to Cleveland to live with Aisha. On November 17, 2018, Ronald left early Saturday morning, thinking Aisha would join him for Thanksgiving with his family in Atlanta. When she didn't respond to his texts, he called her mother.
And I said, "Mama Frazier, is everything okay?" And she said, "No, it's not, Ron. I am sitting in front of a crime scene."
Earlier that day, Lance's sister, Lynn Mason, calls 911.
911, what's your emergency?
I need the police immediately. My brother is attacking his ex-wife.
Okay, what is the phone number, or what is the address?
177 Boulevard.
Okay, is this a house or
we're gonna need an ambulance too. I need the police and the ambulance.
And are they both still there?
They're outside. I don't know. I just heard her screaming.
Okay, are there any guns or knives involved? Any weapons
I don't know.
that you're aware
I
of?
think there might be. He stabbed her and he said she's dead.
Oh my gosh. Shaker units, she's advising that her brother said he stabbed his ex-wife and she's dead.
Aisha had driven her children to her previous home, which she still owned, but was now renting to Lance's sister. Lance had a no-contact agreement with Aisha, so this is where she would drop the kids off for their custody agreement. However, this time was different, and Lance was waiting for her. The moment that she let the kids out of the car, Lance stabbed Aisha multiple times using 2 kitchen knives. Lance then entered the home and says to his sister, "I'm so sorry," and then he leaves. Completely unaware of exactly where Lance was at this point, squad cars then arrive on the scene.
Hey! Is it that house? I don't know. Spot it now. It's 1-1. It's on this side of the street. It's fuck. It's him. He came out of the house. It's him. Watch out. Put your hands up. Put your hands up now. Put your hands up. Put them up. Put them up. Don't let him break.
Well, hurry, watch it. They got the dog up there. They're upstairs. Put your hands behind your back. Do it now. Get him out. Watch. Is anyone else in the house?
My daughters and my sister.
Where are they? Are they hurt?
They're in this bedroom.
Are they hurt?
No, not in any way.
Okay, where's the weapon?
They're outside. I used her on her.
Any possibility of Hep C, anything like that, blood-related pathogens?
No.
Okay.
His wrist is squirting out blood. We need him to the ambulance now.
Let's
Squirting
go.
out blood. Squirting out blood. Go.
Okay. Come on.
Go ahead, guys.
Watch. Where's the ambulance at?
Thank you.
Hold him up with the back with your hands. Were you hit anywhere, or were you stabbed at all?
Only if I hurt myself.
Lance was driving fast enough to cause multiple airbag deployments when crashing into the police cruiser. The police officer, standing beside the cruiser at the time of the impact, suffered significant injuries to his legs and ribs. Both Lance Mason and the police officer were taken to a hospital for treatment before Mason was then locked up. Investigators later counted 59 stab wounds all over Aisha's body, including 12 to her hands, that came from trying to defend herself from Lance. They also found 3 cut marks on Aisha's neck. Lance Mason pleaded not guilty to the charges of aggravated murder, felonious assault, violating a protection order, and grand theft.
Do you first of all understand your rights to speedy trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is it your intent to waive the same?
Yes.
And this is your signature?
Yes.
I believe there's been a waiver of the reading of the indictment.
That's correct, Your Honor.
But you understand, sir, that you are charged with 1 count of aggravated murder, 1 count of murder, 1 count of felonious assault, 1 count of violating a protection order, 1 count of grand theft, and 1 count of felonious assault. Do you understand the charges against you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you wish to enter a plea, sir?
Not guilty.
However, on August 20th, 2019, he changed his plea to guilty on all counts.
And Mr. Mason, you have been represented throughout these proceedings by Mr. Kevin Spellacy and Mr. Thomas Shaughnessy. Is that correct?
That's correct. You want me to rise or?
No, you can remain seated, sir, okay?
Your Honor, I wish to take responsibility for the crimes I committed. I don't wish to prolong it or delay it or hurt my family or Aisha's family any more than I have.
And I respect that.
On September 12th, 2019, Lance's sentence hearing was held. The state attorneys came out swinging, as their opinion seemed to be that Judge Lance Mason was a ticking time bomb that could blow up at any minute.
She tried to give him guidance and support because the primary care and concern were her daughters. And as much as he wants to say he loves his daughters, which I'm sure he does, the moment he laid hands on her, he forgot about his daughters. He forgot that he loved his daughters. He forgot that he had ailing in-laws. He forgot that that was the same woman that had sympathy for him and empathy after he battered her. And the thanks she got was to pay with her own life. His goal was to kill Aisha Frazier. And the fact of the matter is, she was a forgiving soul. Every element in the statute that you look at, he fits into. Consecutive sentences are necessary. They're necessary to protect the public. They're necessary to protect him from himself. Because he didn't stop after the first time. He continued on where he could have. He doesn't have an excuse. He had no excuse. None whatsoever. So when you impart the sentence has to be loud and clear to this community that whether you're somebody who lives on 30th and Superior or somebody who lives in Shaker Heights and has a law degree from the University of Michigan, that we are going to treat you the same way.
Lance also had a few things to say for himself.
I found out, I don't know if I was 30, 40, what age, but that a close family relative of mine had been raped when she was 4 years old until she was 13 years old. And I mean, it tore me apart. It's created a fear in me that maybe it's paranoia. So I looked at sexual abuse as something that was impossible to overcome. There were no interventions based on my behavior with my daughters. I adored them. I would have died for them. But I was terrified something would happen to them. I mean, if you look at my emails, the Aisha and our family wizard, I expressed my concerns, not with romantic interest, but just males being around the girls. I accept full responsibility for the horrific act I've done. I'm ashamed of it, and I'm prepared to be sentenced.
Lance Mason was sentenced to life in prison with a chance at parole after serving 30 years for Aisha's murder. He received another 5 years behind bars for ramming her SUV into the police cruiser and wounding the officer as he fled the murder scene. On February 5th, 2019, a law was announced that would reform domestic violence laws across the state of Ohio.
Friends and family present called the bill groundbreaking. They just wished it would have come sooner for the woman they held dear.
I wish I wasn't here for the law. I wish it was something that could have been done, while she was alive.
Will not go in vain. She will have, her life will have meant something, not only short-term and mid-term, but long-term.
Aisha Frazier was deeply loved and cared for by her friends, family, and students. And it's a devastating reality that good-hearted people like Aisha can be taken away from us in such an act of senseless violence. And in cases like this, it is hard to find any silver lining. But the passing of this bill means that future victims will hopefully be more protected.
We failed her. There's no way he should have been out. There's no way he should have been having access to his kids. I don't know a father, a man, a husband who would have done what he did.
They were all collectively a part of Aisha's death, and the kids witnessing for the second time what a brutal, evil monster that other parent was.
I knew this guy was crazy. I knew she wasn't protected by her community. I knew she wasn't protected by the system. I moved to Cleveland in July, and I told her, our love is worth my life.